Welcome to Make It Last, helping you keep your legal ducks in a row and your nest egg secure, with your host, Victor Medina, an estate planning and elder law attorney and certified financial planner.
Hey everybody, welcome to Make It Last. It's Victor Medina. I am your host. This is the show that helps you keep your legal ducks in a row and your financial nest egg secure. And I have to admit something, which is I am not live in studio today. I am on a little vacation with my family. And so if you've gotten up early to listen to the show, well, thank you for doing that. I'm probably up early because we're out on vacation too. But I've just kind of pre-recorded this ahead of time. But it's still going to be a great show. Stay tuned to this. I'm actually going to offer you a few travel tips that I've come across specifically around the area of your estate planning and retirement planning. And I wanted to make sure that everyone's on track with that because it's affecting my life. And then we're going to talk today also about a really important estate planning document or a set of documents which has to do with your living will and your instruction directive. Because it turns out that most people hear that they should have one. They just don't know what a good one is. And so this will help illuminate that. But first I want to tell you a little bit about the trip that my family are going to be taking. It's first family trip that we've had in almost a year. It just seems like there's so much going on these days between the kids' activities. They've got sports they're involved in and in school. And it just gets harder and harder to find the time away. So my wife was at a silent auction for one of the kids' schools and bid on the right to go get a few nights in Colonial Williamsburg. So that's where we'll be while you listen to this show. We're going to be in Colonial Williamsburg. We'll be visiting the historic triangle of Jamestown, Yorktown, and Williamsburg. And family and I will be out there learning how to make butter the old-fashioned way and pound and make paper out of pulp. And it's going to be fantastic. It's going to be a great trip. Great trip. I don't even mind that as this is airing live, I'm probably exhausted because my wife wants us to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning so that we can avoid the traffic around Washington, D.C., and I have agreed to do it. I don't mind that I'm wiped. I'm sure that the coffee will help me get over that if we could just figure out how they made the coffee in the 1700s. Anyway, that's where we're going to be. And I was thinking about traveling and sort of the things that come up with people around their finances and retirement and estate planning and what good tips would be for them when they traveled, because I was trying to figure it out for myself. And so, back in the day when you took a trip, I don't know if people remember that. Well, first of all, you used to have the atlas. So you would buy the book, the map book, and it would have every state. And then if the states were really big, those states would be across a few pages. And then they'd be in alphabetical order. They wouldn't be in order about where the regions were. So if you wanted to go from New Jersey to Maryland, then back to Virginia, you'd be going from the N's, the M's to the V's, just to make sure that you stayed on track. Anyway, that was back in the day. Now everything's on the phone. You can get the phone to give you directions. If the phone doesn't give you the directions, the car will give you the directions. The last thing that you can do anymore is actually ask a gas station, because even they don't know anymore. They ask you to check your phone. So first tip is just to make sure that you know where you're going and to print those directions out. But more importantly, let people know what your travel arrangements are. Because what we find sometimes is that, it's back in the day where if you had mom and dad, you would call mom and dad when you got to wherever you were going. Well, if you are mom and dad and they're worried about where you're going, you got to let the kids know when you've arrived. I mean, to this day, my mom sends me a text message when she lands on some plane trip that she's taking. She travels back and forth between New York and now Charleston, South Carolina. So it's nice to know when she's landed, when she's traveling, make sure everything's safe on that. But you want to have people know where you're going to be so that if something happens, they can expect that you're going to, be in one place or the other, or figure out how to kind of get in touch with you. And I think that that's a good step. The next step is to think about bringing some of the more core essential sort of estate planning documents with you. Now, when we do the estate planning documents, we put them together in this big red binder, and it's this huge thing, and people say, do I have to take this with me everywhere I go? Well, no, of course you don't have to take that with you, but we also give people the documents on a thumb drive. And you might make a hard copy of some of the more important documents. And really the important documents are not going to be anything about the trust or the will or what you do with your assets when you die. they're going to be the documents that help people make decisions if something happens to you. So you would take things like your power of attorney. You might take your advanced healthcare directive and your HIPAA release, and we're going to talk later in the show about those documents and what makes effective ones. But you can go ahead and take photocopies of them and put them in an envelope and mark what they are, so that if somebody's looking for them, or if something happens to you, get an accident, or you're traveling with somebody, you'll be able to locate those documents and use them. Now, another service that exists, there's two different ones. There's one called DocuBank, another one called Everplans. And those are services that will collect your important documents, and it's sort of like a meta alert badge. They will send you a card that you can keep in your wallet or in your purse, and that'll tell you how to get your documents. Like, you get a little dial-in number and a code, and you hit it, and boop, all of the documents come out, and you get them faxed to you, or you get them emailed to you. And that'd be a way of sort of keeping those documents with you without actually printing them out. You would have the service that allows you to get them. And those documents are important because if something happens to you, specifically if you get in a car accident and somebody needs the ability to make medical decisions for you, we can't be waiting to hunt around for how to contact that person. So we want either the documents there, or in addition to the documents being there, you're going to want somebody with who's been contacted. It's got the contact information on the documents, their phone number and their email address, or their email. Well, they can have their snail address, but you're not going to mail them a letter or a postcard. It's the worst kind of postcard that you could receive. Hey, I got into an accident. Can you come, please? So you definitely want a way of contacting them and having people know where those documents are. And that would be a good thing for those have those documents with you when you travel. And then last one in the area of finances, this is just more of a practical thing. I do a fair amount of traveling for business. There's different programs that I attend with other lawyers and other financial advisors, and kind of making sure that I'm doing this at the highest level. And when I travel, I will have a couple of things that help me on the financial side. The first thing that I will do is I will only use one particular credit card, and not one that has a very high limit on how much I can spend when I go and travel. And the reason for that is, I don't want to use my debit card, because if that gets swiped and stolen, they'll clean out my account and I'll have to fight to get that money back. And if they take a credit card that has a high limit, they might be able to run that up, and then I've got to fight with the credit card company, and I might be away for like a week, before something's raised or something gets shut down. So I'll try to use a credit card that I use exclusively for travel, that's got a lower limit, so that way I don't get too much in trouble with that. And the second thing you can do is you can make an advanced call to the credit card company to let them know that you're traveling and where you're going to be traveling, so that their fraud department doesn't get nervous when they see a lot of charges from a strange location. That's based on a lot of software programs and algorithms. So, for me, they know they're going to travel a lot to Florida. I almost never have to let them know that I'm going to be in Florida, because I'm in Florida 4 times a year for a program that I'm in. But if I'm going to travel someplace unique, like I'm going to be in Virginia, I'm going to let them know that I'm going to be in Virginia. That way they don't, block the credit card or worry about it. And so we're able to kind of, ease the transition off of that. And then I'd be remiss if I didn't tell you what my dad taught me, which is if I'm going to be traveling in the car, I got to get that sucker checked out and make sure the wheels are ready to go. He's fastidious about making sure the car's ready. So you can be sure that on this trip to Colonial Williamsburg, we went ahead and made sure that the car was ready to go for our 6-hour trip. So those are the quick travel tips. Listen, when we come back for the next segment, I'm going to talk to you in detail about some important planning documents, specifically the healthcare directive and the living will. And these are going to be ones that you need to get right. So do me a favor, stick with us come back from the break, and we'll talk more about this. This is Make It Last.
Do you have an IRA or 401k? Most Americans do. The IRS doesn't let you avoid paying taxes on that account forever, and your required minimum distributions, or RMDs, will affect your financial health in many ways. If you have an IRA or 401k, you need to attend this free class hosted by Victor Medina. If you're at or near retirement age, you'll soon have to pay taxes on your IRAs and other tax-deferred savings accounts. Taxes on RMDs can be a major financial burden unless you know how to to protect yourself. Learn simple strategies that could save you thousands. Victor Medina, a certified financial planner and wealth protection strategist, is going to teach you how to minimize the taxes you pay on your IRA distributions, including how to avoid the 50% tax penalty for taking the wrong amount. In addition, you'll learn how to leave a legacy behind for your kids and grandkids. Education is the key element in preventing unnecessary taxes. Don't just assume that everything is going to be all right. Make a plan now before it's too late. There are ways to protect your money. Spots are limited for the free educational workshop, so visit makeitlastradio.com/IRA to reserve your seat. If you have an IRA or 401k, go to makeitlastradio.com/IRA today.
Welcome back to Make It Last. I'm going to spend this time talking about two estate planning documents, which is not fun to talk about because they have to do with what happens if you get sick and you need end-of-life care, and it's not fun to talk about these. However, it's so important that I'm going to risk alienating everybody talking about these important documents because I think that you need to hear about it. And they are the disability planning documents that help make healthcare decisions. Now, I'm going to walk you through what they contain because there's a lot of confusion on them. But most people are going to refer to them as like a living will or a healthcare power of attorney. And the first thing we need to do is kind of talk a little bit about what that document is. What are they, and, how do you create them? Well, there's lots of different kinds. An advanced healthcare directive or a healthcare proxy, it basically is a document that you sign that, one, empowers somebody to make healthcare decisions for you, and two, talks about the kind of care that you need in certain circumstances. So they think about it as like two separate documents. In New Jersey, we call the healthcare power of attorney a proxy, a healthcare proxy. And then we call the living will, we call that an instruction directive. And that's the kind of care that we need. And those are two documents that I think are essential. And the best way that you can make sure you're using the right one is that in our office, we use the one that New Jersey has blessed for our New Jersey clients, and then the one that Pennsylvania has blessed for their Pennsylvania clients. But if you just go online, you Google New Jersey Advanced Healthcare Directive, you'll be directed to a site on the government's website. So it'll say nj.gov, and you will be able to download this document. It's this PDF. Now, when you download it, don't be frightened because it will have 3 documents in this big, long PDF. And it looks confusing with all these instructions, but it's not confusing. In the first document, we'll call it, it says the proxy, and you kind of fill it out. The second document is the instruction directive. And then the third document, watch, it's just the proxy and the instruction directive together. So they combine them, and they call it the combined directive, right? Advanced Directive for Healthcare. That's what they call it. So the one that I think you should sign is the third one. It's the third one. You want to make sure that you have gone ahead and sign the third one. You don't have to sign all 3, just the third one, and that will be the New Jersey form of document for making healthcare decisions. And that's great, and we like that. There's one wrinkle, though, and the wrinkle is that that document is a state document created by a state government. And so it does not cover federal privacy rules. And so people have heard the word HIPAA. Sometimes they think hippo. It's not a hippo. HIPAA. And that stands for the Health Information Portability and Accountability Act. And so if that law governs the disclosure of your private medical information, and it's a federal law. And so if you might imagine, the state form does not cover the federal privacy rule. Okay, so then what we want to make sure happens is we signed a HIPAA release. And that HIPAA release is going to nominate authorized representatives, basically people who can access your private medical information. So now we've got the Combined Advanced Healthcare Directive. That's like document 1. It's actually document 1A and 1B, right? 2 things in one. And then we got the HIPAA release. And then the next document you want to think about is called the POST. The POST, it's POLST, stands for the Practitioner Order for Life-Sustaining Treatment. And the reason why this is different is this is actually like a medical order. It's a physician's order, and it goes into your medical file, and it's a little bit more powerful than the instruction directive because it's basically, like a doctor's order. Take 3 pills a day. It's going to be, don't give me intubation, and I don't want CPR if I become permanently unconscious. Whatever you want, it's what the doctor signs. Okay, and so that's in your medical file. It doesn't exist elsewhere, right? So you can keep a copy in your refrigerator, but really where it's most effective is with your medical file when you get admitted to a hospital in terms of long-term care. But we like that pulse, that practitioner order, because it basically sets it in the file so that you have to follow it. Okay. And so I would say that those 4 documents are sort of the core documents that I would think about for healthcare related decisions, especially as you get older. Do you need a pulse right away? Probably not. Life-sustaining treatment, you could probably get by with one of the other documents until you get a little bit older, a little bit sicker, and, there's something specifically that you're dealing with. Like maybe that's a good time to think about the pulse, where you've been diagnosed with Parkinson's or Alzheimer's or something like that. But at that time, okay, maybe you think about a pulse. But if you just go with the first 3, the Combined Advance Directive, like 1A and 1B, and the HIPAA, that'll be pretty good. Now, that document I talked about, the Combined Advanced Healthcare Directive, that's actually, there's 2 documents in one. And it's important to realize that that document only becomes effective when you become incapacitated. So it's not there like a set of stereo instructions for somebody to follow whether or not you kind of get a heart attack at home. Like the AMTs, they're going to come and they're going to resuscitate you, right? They're not going to be reading that and say, oh, never mind, don't do anything. No, this is really a document where you become incapacitated. In fact, if you go into the hospital and you get sick and you're sitting there recovering and they try to figure out whether or not they should put in a feeding tube or whatever, if you are conscious, you're going to talk about what you want. And you're going to tell them, so you're not incapacitated, okay? And the other important part is that it's revocable and changeable at any time. So no matter what you list on there, no matter what you list, you'll be able to make changes. And you want to think about updating that on a regular basis, just like you update the rest of your documents. You want to take a look at your power of attorney and your trust-related documents. It doesn't matter what it is. You want to update it. You're going to update your healthcare decisions too, because it's going to be important to review those. Like they ask about your organ donation wishes, and you have different thoughts at that point in time. But look, it's a good time to review it. Now, in the next segment, I'm going to talk a little bit more about what's in the Advanced Healthcare Directive, because they ask you about different questions and things, and I wanted to make sure that we're clear about what that is. But before we break, there's a couple of rules about signing one, and I think these are important. The first rule is that you can only name one person at a time. So you can't name a committee and say, okay, well, I want 2 people and then they both have to agree. Nope, that's no good. If you do that, you don't have a valid Advanced Healthcare Directive. So it's important that we name one person at charge at a time. And this document has to be signed by you, so you just can't fill it out and not sign it on the back. And in New Jersey, they either want 2 witnesses or a notary. And you know me by now. In our practice, we do both, 2 witnesses and a notary. You just want to make sure everything is all buttoned up. But you have to sign this thing the right way, or else it won't be effective, and that'll ruin the whole reason why you put the planning in place in the first place. So you want to make sure that you do that. All right. Now, when we come back from the break, I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about what's in the document, so you know how to make smart decisions. But that's going to suppose that you know what's in the document. So pause this or take a break or run out and do a Google search if you're listening online and get that New Jersey form, because we're going to talk about how to fill it out and make sure that we are making the right decisions. When we come back with Make It Last, stick with us.
Hi, folks, it's Bert. There are more than 500 different ways to claim your Social Security benefits. On June 27th at 6 p.m., Victor Medina is holding a workshop where you'll learn about many of the strategies you can use to help maximize your Social Security benefits. Victor Medina, host of the Make It Last radio show, is a certified financial planner and highly knowledgeable in Social Security matters, and will guide you through the potential pitfalls and windfalls of Social Security. This is strictly an educational workshop, no profit products will be promoted. Topics covered will include how to decide when you should apply for benefits, should it be now or later, strategies to help maximize your Social Security benefits, and the 3 biggest mistakes people make with Social Security. Victor Medina will be hosting this educational workshop where you'll be able to ask him questions about your Social Security options. In addition, every attendee will get a free copy of his retirement planning book, Make It Last, ensuring your nest egg is around as long as you are. The workshop will be held on June 27th at 6 p.m. at the Conference Center at Mercer Community College in Princeton Junction. For more information, go to makeitlastradio.com/Social Security. Space is limited, so visit makeitlastradio.com/Social Security now to reserve your spot.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Make It Last. We are talking about advanced healthcare directives. We're talking about living wills. This is the cheeriest stuff that you're gonna... No, I'm kidding. But listen, it's important. It's important. You got to make sure this stuff's in place. Everyone has heard of Terry Schiavo. Everyone's heard about what's happened when there's family members fighting about what kind of care to be provided. You don't want that to be your family. You know, you got to step up, act like an adult, get this document done, and that means listening to our radio show that's talking about healthcare directives. It's not bad. It's not happy. I'm not happy to be talking about it. You should be happy to listen about it because this is important stuff. Now, when you get that document, I told you before, we're going to talk about the specific New Jersey document. And so if you've gone ahead and Googled it and gotten the one that's got 3 documents in one, it's got the proxy first, it has the instruction directive next, and then it has the combined one in the back. I'm going to talk about what goes in to the living will and the instruction directive, because it's a little bit like Choose Your Own Adventure, like those books, you know, where you would read them and says, if you want Johnny to run up the hill to the right, go to page 43. Well, that's a little bit about how these are worded. So the first thing that it asks you is to check a box, and the box says either I can envision some scenarios in which I do not want medical care to be provided, or on the other box it says give me all medically appropriate care, no matter what it costs. So you choose one of those. Now, if you choose that you want all medical care, if that's what you choose you want, that's it. You're done filling out the rest of it. I mean, you got to talk about organ donation and things like that, but basically you're done because you said I want all medically appropriate, you know, all care to be provided to me, and that will essentially end the conversation because you have spoken about your wishes, and your wishes are, if you see something broke, fix it. And that's okay. That's an okay decision to make. Now, most of the population does not make that decision. They go to the other way and say, look, there are some circumstances in which I don't want care to be provided. In which case, you go to page 43. That's not really 43, but you go to the next page, and it says, which circumstances are the ones in which you do not want care provided? And they give you 3 options. They talk about a terminal condition. So when you're going to die, they talk about a permanently unconscious state. That's the permanently vegetative state. You're in a coma. And they have an incurable and irreversible illness. What's that? That's actually the most complicated one. I'll leave it for last. But the terminal condition basically is 2 doctors have independently examined you and determined that you are within, now watch this, X amount of time before you die. And X is a blank that you have to fill out. So you get to decide what the definition of terminal is. You know, if you want terminal to be defined as you're only going to be dying, you know, when you die with just within a few days left, that's one thing. You might say terminal is like if 2 doctors say I'm going to die in the next 6 months, I'm terminal. That's it, I'm done. Now, what's important here is that is a little counterintuitive for what people wish. So most people wish if they say, well, if I don't want any extra care, and I want to make sure that happens as soon as possible, I'll mark down a few days as my choice. That's actually the opposite. Because if you mark down that I'm going to die within a few days, that means they're going to give you care all the way through up until the point in time as when you just a few days. So you're getting extra care. So it's the opposite, right? So if you want to be taken off life support as soon as possible, or if you don't want a feeding tube, or if you don't want to be brought back with CPR, when you would say a few months, right? 6 months. Because that would mean that if you're within 6 months, anytime within 6 months, they're not going to do anything more. And then that's it. They're not going to provide the care for you. So most of our clients choose the middle one. And the middle one is a few weeks. They define terminals a few weeks. Then the next decision after terminal is permanently unconscious state or permanently vegetative state. Now, this usually raises a lot of questions with my clients. They say, well, I don't want it to happen too quickly. Like, what if I wake up? I might wake up. And so we go through the language, and the language says that there's 2 doctors that have personally examined you and concluded that you've irreversibly lost any meaningful contact with your surroundings. They basically say you're not coming back. But if people are concerned about that, then we say, well, maybe we write a little language in there that says, don't withdraw life support until at least 14 days. Give you some time, but that's so you're not around forever. And that's a permanently vegetative state. Most people get that. But the last one, the incurable and irreversible illness, that's the harder one because we really don't know how that is defined. For most people, it means things like Alzheimer's or a Parkinson's condition or ALS. It's basically where you're not terminal, but you're also not necessarily coming back. You won't be cured from this. You won't be able to get recovered. And so people might want to talk about what kind of care they want in those situations. Now, for most of our clients, what we do there is we leave that one blank because we wait for the diagnosis to come. We were in constant contact with our clients. We're doing reviews all the time. We're sending out these, video newsletters and things like that. So we're in front of them and they know that they need to come to us if there's a change that they need to make. But when we counseled them on this document, we said, look, wait for you to be diagnosed with something. And then after that, if it turns out that you want to make a change or you want to cover that situation, we'll know the kind of care that you might be provided. When you're in end stage with a Parkinson's condition, there's specific things. You may not want to be intubated. You may, there's certain kinds of medical procedures, and you might want to describe those with specificity and not just be restricted to a couple. So back to the choose your own adventure, terminal, permanently unconscious, or incurable and irreversible illness. Then when you choose one of those, it says, okay, in those situations, right? Go to page 37. In those situations, what kind of care do you want provided or not? Do you want CPR provided or withheld? Do you want artificial hydration and nutrition provided or withheld? And so the artificial hydration nutrition, that's the feeding tube, that's the IV. And I usually counsel clients that if they marked yes for a permanently unconscious state, then they probably want to mark yes for the artificial hydration and nutrition. Because if you're in a coma, if you're breathing okay on your own, if they feed you, then you could be around for a long time. And that's typically not what people want. So once you get through that, you've gotten through the majority of the instruction directive. And really the last thing to do is this little free writing exercise where they give you a bunch of blanks. So if you want to talk about special conditions, you had a mother or father that had this and you don't want that, then you would talk about it there. All right. And that will help you fill out your advanced healthcare directive. So go do it or make sure that it's done. You don't even have to see a lawyer for this one. All right. It'd be nice if you came and see a lawyer for the rest of your estate planning, but you just download it and boom, you're ready to go. But also remember that you need the HIPAA release or else the people can't view the private medical information. And as you know, we think that this is just one component of a comprehensive estate plan because this doesn't cover managing your finances if you get sick. It doesn't cover getting access to the IRA or anything like that. It doesn't cover, managing your financial life. It's just your health care. So you need to think about the other one as well. Make sure that that's in place. And geez, look, just like that, we're done with talking about advanced healthcare directives and living wills. And it was painless. All right. You're still here. It's just good planning. So I want to thank you for joining us. Thank you so much for listening to the show this week. I want to thank all the production crew for how they make us sound great. If you have a special topic that you would like us to talk about, go ahead and send an email to feedback@makeitlastradio.com. If you like the show, then do me 2 quick favors. The first is share it with a friend. If there's somebody that you know that could benefit from this, share the link with them and then go have them subscribe on iTunes because not only will they listen to future shows, but they can go back and listen to whatever show has happened in the past and they can get all caught up to date. And then the second favor is go onto iTunes and leave us a positive review. They rank these shows based on the number of positive reviews that are out there. So we would love it if you would leave a nice review about this show so that other people can find it and other people can learn as well. That's all we got for this week. Thank you so much for listening to Make It Last, where we help you keep your legal ducks in a row and your financial nest egg secure. Remember, I was on vacation this week, but I'll be back next week. See you next Saturday.
The foregoing content reflects the opinions of Medina Law Group, LLC and Private Client Capital Group, LLC, and is subject to change at any time without notice. Content provided herein is for informational purposes only and should not be used or construed as investment or legal advice or a recommendation regarding the purchase or sale of any security or to follow any legal strategy. There is no guarantee that the strategies, statements, opinions, or forecasts provided herein will prove to be correct. Past performance is not a guarantee of future results. Indices are not available for direct investment. Any investor who attempts to mimic the performance of an index would incur fees and expenses which would reduce returns. All investing involves risk, including the potential for loss of principal. There's no guarantee that any investment plan or strategy will be successful. We recommend that you consult with a professional dedicated to your needs.